Amen. I'm well. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya 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 la ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya 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 la ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la ya la 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 la.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is a joy to welcome congregants and friends and guests, and for Cantor Hyman and I to welcome Susan Baer, representing our board of directors, to our Bima, to be with all of you, both in person and online. We're so glad to have everyone present. I'd like to take a moment, as we are all welcomed in person and virtually, to just note a few resources around the live stream, as I think that more and more of us are and may come to be using the live stream regularly. We are continuing to enhance the live stream and have further enhancements in development for the High Holy Days, and more information to come very soon about all of the planning and readjusting that we're doing. For prayer book options, right next to the link to tune in, there is a link to a flip book. That's a book right online that looks just like the prayer book. It's like a photograph of the prayer book. That can be used on your device or on a second device. There is also a link for a prayer book, an actual physical prayer book, which is a wonderful thing to purchase if that's something you're considering. These will be our High Holy Day resources as well. In addition to in-person services, you will have the chance to sign up for a High Holy Day live stream link, and will receive a link to a High Holy Day online flip book, prayer book, and a link if you'd like to purchase a High Holy Day prayer book. Again, a wonderful thing to have in your Jewish library. So, that's all for now. More to come. There's nothing like tech talk to get you in the mood for Shabbat. Here's what I think might work even better. Let's take this moment to, if online, to introduce yourself in the comments, and if in person, to turn around and find someone new to greet.
I'm going to. Friends, we're on page 24 as we begin to think about what does it mean to welcome in Shabbat and to welcome in specifically the ministering angels. It's a belief that our souls are somehow incomplete, but all of a sudden on Shabbat, when we greet this part of our soul that we long to be together with, we are complete. So we welcome the angels on page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem לשלום, מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון. ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום, מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון. ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתכם לשלום, מלכי השלום, מלכי עליון. ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Inviting Susan Baer to kindle our Shabbat lights, we turn to page 2.
Baruch ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של Shabbat.
And our Shabbat Kiddush is on page 5.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה וראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים.
We are entering yet another uncertain stage that brings many more to stay home and to tune into the live stream. We are grateful to have you with us in any way you can access the service. And once again, and perhaps forevermore, multiple access points means we're never all in the same place anymore. For all of us, whether in person or online, we are not seeing the community in its fullness. In a New York Times column, Colin Hansen expresses the importance of showing up, saying, Christians need to hear the babies crying in church. They need to see the reddened eyes of a friend across the aisle. They need to chat with the recovering drug addict who shows up early but still sits in the back row. Jews need this too. And so for now, while so many can't show up to the same place, we keep each other in our hearts, in our mind's eye. We will not be without each other. We will just have to picture all the other souls we know are joining together in Shabbat prayer tonight. And so we take a deep breath and release, turning from the tight grip of the week to the release of Shabbat joy, turning to page 11, and to bring all of our energy to Kabbalat Shabbat singing. Please rise if you are able.
כי ישמר השבת ישמרני כי ישמר השבת ישמרני אותי לעוד מעט בינו וביני אותי לעוד מעט בינו וביני כי ישמר השבת ישמרני כי ישמר Shmeira Shabbat El Yishmereini Oti Leol Me'ad Beino Veini Oti Leol Me'ad Beino Veini. God hears my desire. Up here, don't hide yourself from us. Eile chamda libi. 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 Eile chamda bibi. Chusana. Chusana ve'al natitala. Chusana ve'al natitala. Chusana ve'al natitala. Chusana ve'al natitala. Elechem dalibi, elechem dalibi, elechem dalibi, elechem dalibi, Chusana ve'al natitala. Chusana ve'al natitala. Chusana ve'al natitala. Chusana ve'al natitala. Back to the beginning last time. Elechem dalibi. Elechem dalibi. Elechem dalibi. Elechem dalibi.
There's a Jewish teaching that says Jews do not delay joy. We don't postpone Shabbat. We don't postpone weddings. We celebrate joy at any opportunity we can. And so we welcome Shabbat with the joy of a wedding with Lecha Dodi, pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi, likarat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi, likarat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, yishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת וקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Verse 5. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי ואורך אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה. verse 9 בואי ושלום עצרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה.
Page 28.
Lay, 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 lay. Lay 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 Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed Lay 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 lay.
On the middle of page 31, together. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim.
Page 32.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadta Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu u'v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו למדת. When we lie down, when we rise up, this joy will last forever. When we lie down and when we rise up, this joy will last forever, forever. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו למדת. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Page 36, please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת.
Page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, sometimes metaphorically, and marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה ולב, עוד מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה ולב, מי כמוך באלים אדוני. מלכות עדותך, ראו בניך. בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך באלים אדוני.
Middle of page 44.
Supposed to have the good times on Shabbat. Supposed to rejoice in Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. V'korei oneg, v'korei oneg, yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. V'korei oneg, v'korei oneg, yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Mekadeshei, Mekadeshei Shevi'i, Kulam yisbehu v'yitangu mituvecha, Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. V'korei oneg, v'korei oneg, Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו, חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה בראשית. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקוראי עונג, וקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת.
Pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depended on you. Page 46. Please rise.
Adonai, sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Turning to page 61, let us join together in our blessing for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Please be seated. We take these moments for silent prayer.
עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. ועל כל ישראל, אמן.
In a moment, we will be on page 253 for our blessing for healing. Each of us moves through times of hardship, times of brokenness. If you have a loved one in need of healing, mind, body, or spirit, please share that name in the comments or aloud now.
Mi shebeirach avoteinu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Jewish thought teaches us to practice hakarat hatov, which means lifting up the good, understanding it in our lives, seeing the good even in hard times, which helps us towards a sense of gratitude. There's a teaching that even in an experience of grief, we might be able to find gratitude if we think about all that made us love, the what or the who that we've lost, all that we love, all for which we are grateful in a lost relationship. Some of us are in grief right now, even because of the tightening of some of our protocols, depending on the person and the risk and the geography. And even in these moments, perhaps, where we may be tightening some protocols in our lives, we may have an opportunity to look back a month or two and say, you know, we did have some opportunities for additional joys. I might not go to an indoor restaurant right now, but a couple months ago I did, and maybe I'm grateful that I had that experience then, and I look forward to having it again someday. And so even in, I think, a disappointing time for many of us, we are guided by Jewish thought's encouragement of hakarat hatov, of finding the good. And so let us consider our day, our week, our month, our lives, and find in our hearts something for which we feel gratitude as we turn to page 344 for our Shehachianu blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'ki imanu והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
It is a pleasure to welcome forward Lee Herman, a member of our Board of Advisors leadership, to deliver a Devar Torah this Shabbat, honoring the memory of Lee Stanley on the occasion of his 7th yahrzeit.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Kenna. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. How's that? Okay. Our sages teach us that there are no coincidences. It's a traditional Jewish belief called Hagaha Pritat, divine providence. It teaches us that everything happens for a reason, according to a preordained plan established by the will of the Creator. A more contemporary view dismisses this concept, looking at life through scientific eyes. In this view, our world is understood by purely scientific thinking, physics, biology, chemistry, simple cause and effect. From this perspective, science compels us to conclude that if it can't be accurately measured, it can't be confirmed. Either there is no creator, or if there is one, he or she does not control what happens in this world. And I suspect that most of us aren't at either of these two extremes. We probably believe that there is a higher power, but it's up to each and every one of us, individuals, to take action in this world to make things happen. We read in this week's Parsha Shoftim on the 7th anniversary of the violent and unresolved death of Lee Stanley. And, strikingly, Shoftim deals with this very issue that we face as a community. How must we deal with Lee's unsolved murder? To those of you who did not know Lee Stanley or don't remember him, I'd like to share a little bit about him, his death, his relationship to Rodef Shalom, followed by some insight from our Parsha. Who was Lee Stanley? Meeting Lee Stanley for the first time was an uncomfortable experience for many, including me. One might say Lee was an acquired taste. His appearance was unconventional, with an oversized suit, an unkempt beard, and piercing bright eyes. He could make strangers feel uncomfortable and unsettled. But if he allowed you to get to know him, he was a warm, funny, engaging, and very knowledgeable person on so many different topics. Perhaps Lee was a savant, I don't know. But there was not a single piece of baseball trivia he did not know. How many games did Chris Short win in 1963? He knew. Who was the last pitcher to pitch a shutout at Connie Mack Stadium? Just ask Lee. I never tested him on opera, but I presume there was not a single note of modern and I guess the last 200 years of opera that he didn't know about. And at Torah study, Lee regularly contributed insights of rabbis from several hundred years ago. Lee was born and spent his entire life as part of this congregation. Lee was the son of Rita Stanley and Cantor Harry Stanley, who served Rodef Shalom for many years as a beloved teacher in Cantor. Lee regularly attended services in Torah study. He'd sit right about there every single time. You couldn't miss him. He was an active member of the volunteer choir and helped bring back the tradition of the youth choir. He joined the steering committee of the Men of RS before his death and actively participated in many events. When asked for memories of Lee Stanley, I received loads of comments, but they all were pretty much similar. He was a sweet man. He was a good guy. He loved RS. He loved the children of RS. He loved the music of RS. Many people said that they remember Lee actively and miss him, and they remember him most when they contribute to the Lee Stanley Fund, which is for music in the synagogue. Lee was found 7 years ago this week in his nearby townhome. He had been violently murdered, and the full details of his death have never been released. The Philadelphia Police Department opened an active homicide investigation. However, there was no person of interest, and no suspect was arrested. Large rewards have gone unspoken for. While there's speculation as to the motive, the crime remains unsolved, and today is considered a cold case. Lee's funeral was attended by dozens in the August heat. His memorial service was attended by hundreds in this very sanctuary. After his death, people speculated that once you peered behind his exterior, there was a truly righteous soul, a person with absolutely no guile, perhaps a tzaddik, and possibly a lamed vavnik. That's a Yiddish term for the 36 hidden people who are, according to Kabbalistic mystic tradition, inhabit the earth at any given time. This week's Parsha suggests a strange ritual for a community to deal with an unsolved murder. When a person is found murdered and no one can be charged with the crime, the elders of the nearest town take a cow who has never worked to a valley that's never been sown, there to have her neck broken. The elders then wash their hands over the cow and state, "Our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it done. Absolve your people Israel, whom you redeemed, and do not let the guilt of blood of the innocent remain among your people Israel." It's in Deuteronomy 24, it's this week. To modern sensibility, the procedure seems unfathomable, even alien. Why must the elders perform this ritual? Perhaps the unworked cow and the unsown field represent the lost potential of the person who died. Why do the elders ask for absolution for a crime they didn't commit? Rabbi Shira Milgram suggests that the entire community is presumed to be indirectly responsible for this murder, since it occurred in its territory, in its jurisdiction, while they were in control of things. This week marks the beginning of Elul, the last month of the Jewish year. Elul, as you know, is traditionally a time of introspection and stock-taking, a time to review one's deeds and spiritual progress over the past year, and to prepare for the upcoming holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And in the context of Lee Stanley's yahrzeit, we are reminded of Louis McMaster Bujold's teaching. The dead cannot cry out for justice. It is the duty of the living to do so for them. So, what should we as a congregation be doing about this unsolved murder? I don't think we need to buy a cow. I don't think we need to follow the ancient ritual. But Shoftim reminds us that there are no seemingly unrelated events, that we are all connected to each other and part of a much bigger plan. The concurrence of Shoftim and Lee's yahrzeit is not a random event or a coincidence. This week's Torah portion reminds us that we are indirectly responsible for Lee's murder and for all who have needlessly suffered violence in our community. We must forcefully take our commandment, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice, shall you pursue, and make this a living monument and a guiding principle. Our congregation should actively seek solutions for Lee Stanley's murder, but also for the underlying conditions that brought about his unnecessary and senseless death. If you're interested in seeking a solution to Lee Stanley's murder, contact me, a member of the clergy or the staff. There's lots we might be able to do. On the anniversary of Lee Stanley's yahrzeit, we recall his untimely death, his most unique personality, which enriched our congregation, and remember our continuing responsibilities to seek justice for him. We must honor Lee's memory by looking beyond the surface of someone and recognizing the humanity of every person we meet. To recognize not only the Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bazeh, all Israel is responsible for each other, but really, Kol Ha'olam Arevim Zeh Bazeh, all of the world is responsible for each other. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher Koach. Thank you, Lee, for your meaningful words tonight. We continue in our prayer books on page 282 as we rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגבהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week, our congregation observes yahrzeit for Robert M. Alper, Samuel Alper, Earl P. Apfelbaum, Nathan Blumberg, Max Brenman, Louis Brody, Ralph T. Buxbaum, Thomas Bono, Bertha Davidson, Naomi Diamond, Victor Diamond, Robert Dinkin, William J. Eisen, Chaim Feldman, Hannah Field, Rosetta Lowenstein-Frank, Josephine B. Freed, Krena Genn, Elaine Gitlow, William S. Grass, Ruth Green, Ethel Sablasky Greenhouse, Rhoda Nussbaum Heimerdinger, Shirley Emily Hers, Joseph H. Heinlein, Sylvia Holtzman, J. Herman Jacobs, Judith Jamison, Samuel Cates, Anna Katz, Philip Kaufman, Leonard Klein, Joseph Koch, Ida Koppelman, Israel Krieger, Helene R. Levi, Benjamin Lieberman, Phyllis Lieberman, Dorothy Savoy-Litow, Addie Teller Mayer, Julius Mintz, Lester J. Moses, Charlene Odell Kelly, Milton H. Pagel, Martin Potashnik, J. S. Ravitsky, Philip Rosenau, Joseph S. Rosenthal, Madeline Wilson Roscom, Mark Rosans, Maurice Saul, Henry M. Salzer, Lillian Schultz, Martha A. Schwartz, Sadie G. Schwartz, Harold Selbert, Robert N. Szymanski, Morris Silverstein, Jean Simon, Stephen Edward Solms, Lee Stanley, Harry H. Stein, Stella M. Stern, Caroline Troutman, Mary Malau Welschler, Joseph Weintraub, Bessie Friedman Weiss, Joseph M. Winston, Pierce Winthrop, Edna Wolov, Major Rudy Weil, Donna Ray Wyman, Simon Yellen, Evelyn D. Zoll. We add the names of those who have been taken from our midst, but not from our hearts, for whom we observe Shloshim. Martin D. Blum, Eleanor Siegel, Rona Sostman. And if you are observing Yartzeit or Shloshim for a loved one whose name I did not call, please feel free to add that name to the comments or speak it aloud now. Together we honor their memories as, turning to page 294, we rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma devarach yutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'alam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei dekudashah b'richu. La'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, tamiran ve'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, huya aseh shalom, alinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring comfort to the bereaved and peace to each of you. And together we say, Amen.
Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom. Aleinu ve'ako Yisrael, ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom. Aleinu ve'akol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen.
If this is your first time at Road of Shalom, we're so glad to welcome you, and we want to be sure to have a chance to greet you. And so Stephanie Eisen is waving from the back of the sanctuary. Be sure to say hello to her following the service. And by the way, Stephanie is one of the newest members of our professional team. So if you've been around a while, maybe you want to welcome her, right? And we'll all get to meet each other. Also, at the conclusion of services, please join us for Oneg in the Foreman family courtyard.
Well, the month of Elul is certainly upon us, and for all of my, well, certainly all of my colleagues, we are in quite a bit of a frenzy as we prepare to best meet the needs of our congregation, our community, and the Jewish people. And our heart and our spirits are beginning to align as we begin this month of introspection, of reflection, of trying to find all of the things that we are, and hopefully some of the things that we should not be. And in the spirit of the month of Elul, we are going to be preparing all of us in a certain way by getting the sounds and the feeling into our head. There is a very long-standing tradition of being in the month of Elul and with concluding services with the sounds of the High Holy Days. Well, certainly with the words and the sentiment of the High Holy Days. And so I ask you to find in your prayer book, page 358. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. The one thing that I ask of God, only this one thing do I seek. Shivti b'veit Adonai kol yemei chayai, that I should dwell in the house of God all the days of my life. And you could take that to mean being amongst God and recognizing that God is beside us, even when we don't necessarily feel the presence. Lachzot b'noam Adonai uvaker b'hechalo, to gaze upon the beauty of God and to frequent in God's temple. Well, here we are. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai. Achat sha'alti ota avakesh. Let's try that. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai. Achat sha'alti ota avakesh. Shivti, 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 beveit Adonai. Shivti, shivti, kol yemei chayai. Shivti, shivti, beveit Adonai. Shivti, shivti, kol yemei chayai. Let's go back to the beginning. Achat sha'alti. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai. Achat sha'alti ota avakesh. Achat. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai. Achat sha'alti ota avakesh. Lachazot, lachazot b'noam Adonai. Ulevaker, ulevaker beheichalo. Lachazot, lachazot b'noam, b'noam Adonai. To gaze upon the beauty, to gaze upon the beauty of Adonai. Achat sha'alti. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai. Achat sha'alti ota avakesh. Last time. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai. Achat sha'alti ota avakesh.
Would you like your congregation to give you your shofar call?
Oh, yes.
All right, should we all do a Tekiah Gedolah together? Tekiah Gedolah. Yasher koach. I will add a Lee Stanley memory that many of us share. Each week at Torah study, Lee would bring a volume of Rashi's commentary on the Torah. So we would turn to him for Rashi's take on each verse. So I share this Rashi in honor of Lee's memory. About the verse in this week's Torah portion, justice, justice, you shall pursue. Rashi taught, go to search after a reliable court. So why is Rashi so interested in a reliable court? Not a coincidence that our friend Lee Herman is an attorney. We can only have justice if our institutions are just. May we bring justice to the institutions in our lives, from the boardroom to the Zoom room to the kitchen table, that we bring more fairness and light into our world.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha Shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May the light of God's Spirit shine upon us and be good to us.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's presence be with us and bring us peace. Kei nihi ratzon, may this be God's will. Shabbat shalom.